power of momentum when it's working, it really permeates across all aspects of your life. Now, subsequently, when it's not, rarely would you say, I'm crushing it at work. What do you think was the ultimate trigger or change that got you out of that funk?
Have my morning routine back. The morning routine is something that always, if you look at my morning routine, I think when that's going well, everything's kind of going well momentum-wise. And when it's not,
locked in.
Yep. Oh yeah, absolutely.
What was easy about that process? And maybe start with what was hard about that process, becoming an author, writing a book?
I think the hardest thing was realizing it was going to be a lot of work, going to take a long time. I'm someone who wants the result now.
When does it get to the point, you said going down the hill, that snowball effect, like where all of a sudden it's, I don't know if it's easy, but it just feels like everything you're doing is working.
No distractions, no excuses. I'm going to spend an hour a day to do this. And it got easier and easier each day went. Wanting to do it and it becoming easier as far as the whole process goes, it really did just start with a time and place to be successful.
That sounds so hard. Hello, friends. Welcome to the Lead More podcast. On today's episode, we talk about how to create momentum to accomplish big professional projects like writing a book, but how you can also use momentum to make changes in your personal life, which if the goal might be to sleep better, maybe the outcome is to read at night. And we do this with my friend, Jacob Karnes. Jacob is the creator of Waves Business Coaching. He's also an author. Last year, he published his first book called Master Your First Job. So if you have a loved one who is graduating high school or in college, getting ready for that first, turning that part-time job into a career, send them this book. We have a link at the end of the episode to a free copy. But we talk about how Jacob used momentum to write his first book in about 24 days. Once he got locked in and focused, how did he take the power of habit, routine, and discipline to write this book? And then how he also used very similar strategies to positively impact his personal life. He was struggling to sleep and needed to recognize he needed to value sleep more often. And his path toward better sleep was actually a reading habit at night, putting the phone away and trying to read every night. So we talk about all those things and more. You're going to learn about Jacob, how he's got his career, his first job, and how he's now used that to start his own company as an entrepreneur and coach. So with that, friends, here is Jacob Karnes. All right, friends, welcome back to the Lead More podcast. I'm here with my friend Jacob. How you doing today, Jacob?
Wonderful. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm super excited to sit down and chat. We have met through a mutual coaching friend. You yourself are a coach, an author, creator of Waves Business Coach. Tell me a little bit about who's the main person that you coach and serve.
Yeah, so mainly small business owners with teams of 20 to 150, kind of broad there, but love work with business owners to help turn the chaos of people management into the dream team that drives their business.
And I know you, some of your experience in people management started with a brand that all of us know. Tell us a little bit about that, because I know they're quite known for their people and training.
Yeah, I spent 10 years with Chick-fil-A, and so Chick-fil-A, I think, known for their chicken sandwich, but also for just the standard of excellence. And that comes with people and investing in their team and a lot of the values that make Chick-fil-A really special. And so I'm definitely biased. I love Chick-fil-A. I'm still a premier member of the app and still an avid customer, though I no longer work there. Because it's great for young families. The easiest fast food thing to get. I feel like I can still get a decent option and quickly. And I've been in the kitchen, so I trust the food. But
okay,
yes,
there you go.
There you go. It's very trustworthy. But spent a decade with Chick-fil-A and really learned what it looks like for a business to deeply invest in its people and what can happen as a result of that and have a really successful business. I mean, Chick-fil-A's per unit average for the quick service industry is at least 3 times its closest competitor. It's insane.
Whoa.
So,
Wow.
if you look at total sales, McDonald's probably has 10 times the locations, but
Sure.
Chick-fil-A is doubling, tripling, quadrupling them in sales per unit. And I really believe it's because of how Chick-fil-A runs its organization. Yes, the chicken sandwich is amazing, but you got to have a really good backbone of people management to get that right. And Chick-fil-A does that really, really well. And now I get to do that for other franchises, Chick-fil-A owner operators, and other businesses as well.
So it's almost like the product gets you in the door, but everything else is what keeps you, right? And what keeps you coming back.
Yeah, the chicken sandwich has to be good, right? People aren't going to come because they treat their team members right. Chicken sandwich has got to be good, but for it to be sustainable, I had a boss tell me, if you take care of your people, they will take care of the business, and Chick-fil-A does that to a T. That's how I run my business now, and it's how I help other business owners run their business as well.
I love that. Yeah, I often would say is like your job is to grow the people will grow the business. So
That's
very
right.
similar. But
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. So good background there, and clearly you found those lessons to translate to other. I mean, I know you work with franchise owners and Chick-fil-A owners, but other businesses too. So you found those lessons to translate. Is there anything that surprised you maybe in how much something from a quick serve franchise industry it does apply to 100-person white collar company?
Yeah, I was surprised with the reputation Chick-fil-A had. I was always biased and inside the umbrella, and so
Sure.
when I started sharing like, hey, I do all this stuff, and it's like, oh, that's great, and then I said, oh, I spent 10 years at Chick-fil-A. It's like, oh, so how can we be the Chick-fil-A of blank industry?
Sure.
I talked to a local business here in the Atlanta area, and they were like, we want to institute Chick-fil-A training methods. I'm like, oh, well, what do you know about Chick-fil-A training methods? Because I'm like, we don't share a lot of that outside.
Yeah.
And they just know that like, hey, every team member knows what they're supposed to be doing, and that must be a training thing. And so I worked with them on building really clear training plans and how to execute that well, because that's a part of this. I say building your dream team. That's a part of managing people and having them do their job well is clarity through training. And I worked in learning and development at the corporate office at Chick-fil-A. And so I feel like I'm expert in that and got a crash course there. That I've seen that resonate with several businesses as just, okay, Chick-fil-A clearly does something well when it comes to training. How can we replicate that here?
Cool. I like that. Well, today we're going to dive in the heart of our conversation on the topic of momentum. And when we first connected one-on-one, you were telling me about your process for writing a book. So you're an author. You wrote a book that came out in July of last year.
That's right.
We'll talk about, so hasn't even been a year yet. We'll talk about kind of how that's going. But break me down, because I'm curious about that as someone who aspires to do that. What was easy about that process, and maybe start with what was hard about that process, becoming an author, writing a book?
I'll start with hard because I had no idea how that actually worked or how it happened, and self-publishing versus traditional publishing versus hybrid and all stuff. I had no idea what any of that meant. It started with I met someone who had their name on the front of a book and shook their hand and seemed like a normal person like me, and I was like, oh my goodness, right? And I thought, oh my gosh, you must have this huge business and all this money and all this other stuff. And he has a very successful business. His name's Jake Brown. Hi, Jake, if you're listening. And he, but anyway, I say he's like me in that self-starter, solopreneur plus a team now, business coach, and had just written this book. And so I was like, okay, so how did you do this? And he kind of walked me through his process. And I think the hardest thing was realizing it was going to be a lot of work, going to take a long time. I'm someone who wants the result now. That doesn't. I think most people are that way, right? I'm a millennial, so that's a millennial trait. But not that I'm not afraid to do the hard work. I was just ready to have what I knew the book could do for my business very quickly, and I felt like I needed it. Yeah, I felt like I needed it very quickly. So I think the hard thing was, I say throttling down to do it well, because I'm like, okay, I can't have this be something that is just trashy, and that's how it's going to represent my business, right? It's just this trashy book and not well written or well done. So it seemed, I think with any big project, it's the whole chocolate cake thing, right? Of like, you see the chocolate cake and it's like, there's no way I'm going to finish this, but you got to do it one bite at a time. You got to spread it out over a long time in order for it to happen. But in the end, it can be done. It's just a matter of how you go about it, right? So I think the most challenging thing was just seeing that it's a huge, huge task, and laying out and having no idea how to even approach it. But we can walk through my process. I figured out how to do it, and obviously I'm holding the book, so it can be done. But really challenging just looking at the project in its entirety and all the moving pieces.
Well, now that's probably a nice segue then to what became easy, because it probably didn't start easy. No. But what was your secret sauce there to try to chunk it out and to take it one bite at a time?
I mean, it's just that. It's dividing it out into different things that needed to be done, and I surrounded myself with people who had done it and who had frameworks that worked. And so started to follow those because I'm no expert in writing a book, but I'd met people who had, and I think took the best ideas from different people that worked for me. So first for the book, it was, hey, what's the main idea and who's the target audience? Because if you just start writing and then figure that out later, you might realize you've written a book for a completely different main idea to a completely different person. And for me, I'm young. And so I had a lot of imposter syndrome about, I can't write this a business book to some, 55-year-old business owner who knows a lot more than I do. But an area where I've mastered and am an expert in is figuring out, like, I started at Chick-fil-A as a 16-year-old at my first job and worked really hard and worked my way up and turned that into a career at the corporate level at their corporate office in Atlanta. And so I figured out how to do this first job thing and how to actually work hard and master some of these soft skills that help me later on in my career. Could I write a book to that person who's in my shoes, who's just, hey, I'm just getting this job as a paycheck. I'm in college. I'm making car payments and getting through school. Can you actually turn your first job into something more than that? Can you start laying a foundation that you can build a really successful career off of? And so that became the main idea from the book. And once I had that really clear, now I can go through, and I had probably in the beginning 26 main ideas. I say main ideas, ideas for chapters.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was like, here's different topics that I think could help this person. And when I got really clear on, I wrote like a persona, right? So like this is their
like
age.
A sticky note of a person.
That's right.
Computer,
literally, I have a whiteboard right here, and it was in the middle of, like, I named them because I had two of our family friends who were going into college now. I put their names on a sheet of paper and just wrote out their persona.
I know you told me that, like, high school graduation gifts, college graduation gifts.
That's right.
Your demo, right?
Yeah. So like 16 to 22 was my age range here. So it might seem broad, but I think that's pretty niched down as far as later high school to college age student, and wrote out, what are their interests? Or why do they have a job? Right. Because I think that's different for different people. I think some young people are called on at a young age to help provide for their family. They're going to have very different motivation than the person who's just, I want some fun money. Right. So when I got really clear about that, then all the 26 ideas around that on the whiteboard, you start to see ones that don't fit that audience at all. And so I think what took the longest was getting the main idea and the main chapters I wanted to write about. Then it was building the writing habit, which I think is where the wheel really started to get going down the hill and build a lot of momentum.
Perfect. So you said the key word there about momentum. So that's what we want to talk about is, when does it get to the point, you said going down the hill, that snowball effect, like where all of a sudden it's, I don't know if it's easy, but it just feels like everything you're doing is working, right?
Yep.
It's frictionless. It's like the best analogy I have is like when you're at the airport and you're walking, and then you get on like the people mover thing, and all of a sudden you're walking twice as fast.
That's right.
Because then you feel it when you get off of it really abruptly. So what was that? How did you create? Because I know you told me you wrote this in like 26 days or something like that.
So first draft, 24 days start to finish of just writing. So I probably spent a month in this whiteboard stage of just trying to figure out who am I writing to and what's my main idea. The reason it took me so long is I was just fitting this into my day whenever it could fit. Of like, I'm going to work and then I'll work on the book as I have a few minutes here and there. And where the momentum started was me sitting down and saying, okay, no matter what. And for me, I even did weekends. I'm like, I'm spending at least an hour a day on the book. And I'm starting my day with spending an hour a day on the book. And so from 8 to 9 every day for 24 days was writing. Before that, getting the outline done included. Probably ended up being
a young kid too. So like you had to obviously make this a priority.
Yeah, it was a priority, and talked to my wife about it. And weekends was different. I might do it at night in the weekend after she went down of like, hey, I'm going to go to the office for an hour and work on this. But I knew for this to get done, I needed to make it a priority, build my day around this because it was my most important goal at the time. And so it took a little less than 2 months from building an outline to having a first draft complete. And it really was about just, I will spend an hour a day working on this. No other distractions, like muted all notifications on my computer. I tried to do a lot of pen and paper, just like writing and then typing. Obviously I had to do it on my computer, but no distractions, no excuses. I'm going to spend an hour a day to do this. And it got easier and easier each day went. And
Hmm.
obviously, for writing a book, a clear outline really helped me write. But
Yeah.
as far as wanting to do it and it becoming easier as far as the whole process goes, it really did just start with a time and place to be successful. And again, less than 2 months, and I had a first draft of a book. Didn't think that was possible in that amount of time.
That's awesome. So a few lessons there. You got like the prioritization. You got others on board. You told your wife, I'm doing this. Like, this is a priority for me. I like the time blocking, same time, same space, like environment. So like, you go to the office, you had like this routine. You sort of protected that time. I love that. And it sounds like good planning too. So it wasn't just like, what should I write about today? You probably knew which chapter you were hitting each day. You sat down.
Yeah, I mean, we can nerd out about writing, but once I had my main idea, I narrowed down my 26 topics into 10, and those became the 10 chapters of the book. And then I figured out chapter structure. So I kind of followed a story brand-esque, like hero has a problem, meets a guide. So that chapter structure became, I told stories for each of the frameworks I wanted to teach. Mm-hmm. And so the story would start with me or someone else having a story, having a problem. Break from the story. I would teach what I wanted to teach as like the guide section. So like, here's the 3 things you can do to do this well. Then go back to the story and show success or failure based on that lesson, which both are in the book. And so because I had all my topics, I had the structure I was going to use, I built an outline based off of that. And so had to figure out chapter order, but then like, okay, here's how the chapter is going to be structured. So when I went to write, I could just look at my outline and be like, okay, here's the story I'm telling for this topic. I had bullet points of how the story played out, and I knew it at that point. So then it's just, can I get 2,000 words out of this without it being repetitive or, like the college essay of, this question is amazing, because, and then you're repeating the question. I'm like, how do I not do that?
Like you're filling the pages. Yep.
That's right. So yeah, really, really clear plan of here's exactly how the structure is going to be. And that allowed me to just flow when writing and, how can I add more description here? And I worked with an editor and stuff. It was nice to hear them say like, hey, how did you feel during the situation? Talk about that more. I'm like, oh, okay, that matters in the book. So
some emotion there.
But yeah, the plan made the writing really free flowing, like you and I have talked about.
So it sounds like in the spirit of momentum, once you had that environment and priority and time block and outline, things really did start to snowball. Any roadblocks that you hit or anything that slowed you down?
I think getting through, so I had 10 chapters. When I got to chapter 7, I was ready for it. I was like, I've worked so hard on this. I want this to be done. So I think during chapter 7's the chapter. Yeah, chapter 7's the chapter I had to rewrite a lot. When I went back through and read my first draft, I could tell that's where I hit the roadblock because the writing just wasn't very good.
Sure.
But so, I mean, about 70% of the way through where I'm like, I can see the end, but man, this chapter's taken forever. So I don't know if that was just time, and I'm very, again, I want the result. And so I think I just hit that, like, I could see the end, but it seems so far away. Like the road trip. And I feel like those last 2 hours of a road trip, it's just like, golly, that seems like 6. That's how it seemed writing chapter 7. So I can't pinpoint what caused that, but I think the road trip example is what connected it for me.
I like that. That certainly will resonate with parents.
Yeah.
I can relate. Okay, cool. So this is really interesting to me because like I'm in the early stages of this, and that's my goal for the year is to write a book. And sitting here at the end of March, haven't made much progress. So I'm looking for these keys to momentum. But not everyone listening is going to write a book. So talk to me about maybe how have you taken this example and applied it to any other habits or routines? I know you mentioned not just writing, but you've become a pretty avid reader.
Yeah, so this was kind of 2 goals in one, and habit stacking I think is a great tactic. So this really came out of priority wise was I'm not a very good sleeper, and I had struggled for a long time with insomnia, and for different reasons, whether it was stress or just I was just bad at it. I was sleeping not great. Wake up every morning feeling exhausted. Like change my diet. I was working on it a lot, but I still just wasn't sleeping enough, and so I was really committed to like, I've got to be a better sleeper and I had read several studies about how important sleep is.
Yeah,
And
it
like
seems like we're learning more and more data every
oh
year.
my
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah. So I'm like, for me to show up and be, a great husband, a great dad, a great business owner and coach, like I've got to sleep. I'm not gonna be able to do any of it well if I don't sleep. So
Yep.
I started looking at my routine. Like I bought there's a brand called Hatch. Probably all the parents know about Hatch. They make sound machines.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But they made an adult one called the Hatch
Mm.
Restore. It's a little expensive, but and they talk about the science of like a wind down routine. It even has a light on it that kind of like does a sunset thing till it turns off. And I'm like, oh, our daughter sleeps with the sound machine. Maybe I'll try sound machine. So I tried that. Set a bedtime, which is really important. Of like, okay, we're gonna be in the bedroom, in the bed by I think we'd said like 9:30.
Okay.
Which is early, but I get up early. So I'm like, it's okay, if I'm going to get sleep, got to get to bed early. And I'm still just like not falling asleep till close to midnight. Finally, I gave up the thing I didn't want to give up, which is my phone. And I would tell myself, like, I'm jealous of my wife. She can turn over and fall asleep. But I just can't do it. And so I would typically turn on shows I've seen before because I'm like, oh, it's just, that's white noise.
Background
like,
noise, sure.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, and I've seen it. So I'm not interested in the plot. I'm like, it's The Office or something. I can just kind of doze off to TV.
That was the first thing that came to mind. I feel like every millennial just watches The Office on repeat.
Yeah, it's like, the 21st time I've seen it, and I'm like, yeah, it's, it's fun, it's casual, it's light. But I was staying up so late, and so I just started, and this is about the same time where I'm like, okay, if I'm going to be an author, then I think I need to be an avid reader. Just so I'm writing all the time and seeing what I like, what I don't like, structure, how good writers write. And so I was like, okay, what if I just started reading before bed? And I had read several things about the effect blue light has in your brain. And I'm like, yeah, but not me, So I just committed to like, hey, an hour before I want to be asleep, I'm not touching my phone. And
Smart.
like, it's on my bedside table on a little thing because, emergency, whatever, our baby monitor's on there. But I'm like, it's away. I had sleep modes on my phone and I'm just going to start reading. I even bought a book light because I'm like, my wife's going to fall asleep. So I was reading my paperback books with a book light. I felt, 65 years old with my book light. And my friends had a Kindle. And let me tell you something. I'm a paper book fan, just romantic about books, think they're beautiful and love holding one. But the fact that I could lay down horizontally and have a Kindle in my hand changed the game when it came to reading. And last year, I read, I think it was 39 books, my total last year.
Wow,
this year, I've read 18. And
wow,
all it is
Q1.
And again, like, I think this is something anyone can do. Anyone who's like, I want to read more books. I'm like, okay, start putting your phone down for 30 minutes and pick up a book every day. Because it's not I don't have time. There usually is time. We're just doing something else with it.
Yeah, and if you go to that Apple feature, right, of screen time, like 2, 3, 4 hours easily.
I mean, I got really convicted about like how much time I was spending on, I'm a big sports fan. So Twitter, I mean, it's just like the live news for sports it's the best place for it. Yeah. I started seeing how much time I was spending on Twitter every day. I set a time limit on it, down to 15 minutes. Like I mean, at nighttime, YouTube, like, of course, like streaming, whatever. And I'm like, so, I mean, I watch less shows than I used to last year, but I've read a lot more books. And it's that, James Clear, I think, is the best writer on habits. And in Atomic Habits, he talks about how to build a good habit and then how to break a bad one. And replacing a habit is a really good way to break a bad one and start a new one. And I kind of replaced watching The Office 27 times with reading. And now I've read, in the last year and a quarter, what is that, like 50 something new books.
But I love what you said. I know you mentioned, we didn't get into like why you chose to write a book, but like you just said it was something on your bucket list. I know when we talked. And I love the idea of like, if I'm going to be an author, I should also sort of study authors and what makes good writing. Like just being in the headspace. Yeah. Even if the topic, I'm sure some books you loved and some you didn't, but like just being a reader will make you a better writer.
Oh, I believe this 100%. And it doesn't matter the genre. Like, being an avid reader will make you a way better writer, whether it's LinkedIn posts or writing a book. I think just being an avid reader, you're going to see what makes writing good. You'll find stuff you like that you want to copy. Everyone copies each other, right? As far as style goes, and like you'll find syntax that you think works. And I get really nerdy even about how stuff looks on a page. Like which pages look busy and which ones are easier to read. And I based my format based on other books that were easy to read. So being a good reader definitely made me a better writer. And whenever I write my next book, I'll be an even better writer because of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you have these 18 books is just happening based on roughly an hour a night, or is there a goal here?
So I had set a goal for the year. I was like, okay, I did 40 books last year, but I'm very tenacious in that. And when I set a goal, I either want to beat it or blow it away. But then I'm like, okay, I also want to enjoy the books and not just read to hit a goal. Yep. And so first month of the year, I think I got through 8. And I was like, okay, I kind of took off the goal because I'm like, I'm going to hit this goal. No problem. I want to enjoy these books.
Yeah.
So I think initially,
how do you choose what to read?
Good question. I use Goodreads. So they have a pretty good algorithm. Amazon they're owned by Amazon. So they share kind of an algorithm. I love going to a bookstore now. I 1000% judge a book by its cover. As you should. There's whenever you write a book, there's experts help me with my book as far as like there's a way to do a cover to help people understand what the book's about and to make them want to pick it off the shelf. There's so many options. You've got to have a good cover now. But fiction's something I've always struggled to read. I think since school, I just think it was like you kind of got told what to read and it took the joy out of it. Yeah. And so I don't know if I had read fiction since like college. And Agatha Christie is a mystery. Murder on the Orient Express with Kenneth Branagh a few years ago. Yeah, great. So that's one of her books. She wrote 34 Hercule Poirot novels about that detective.
Interesting.
And so I've read like 6 of those that are really good. I'm like, mysteries are good. Trying to figure, a good whodunit.
Well, I've heard that too. Of like fiction's good at night, right? Like nonfiction during the day. Fiction, if the goal is good sleep at the end of the day, fiction will get you there.
And I've made that mistake of like trying to read something heavy, and like that I'm trying to learn while also trying to fall asleep is also not great. So I've read a lot of fiction to wind down. There's some nonfiction I can read. Almost like more biography stuff where it is storytelling and not like a here's how to run your business better book or, here's how to be a better Christian, whatever.
Figure out this worksheet. Yeah.
Yeah. So that I'll still reserve for like paper books where I can take some time during daylight and highlight and, dog ear and stuff like that. But
awesome.
Yeah, I recommendations too.
Well, in the spirit of momentum on that one, I like the you started with a really strong why, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I want to sleep better. This is good. This is for my health. This is for my wife, my children, my future. And then was able to pair that with another healthy habit. But you also did some really good things there in terms of momentum of like eliminating distractions.
Yep.
You sort of like pinpointed the issue, which was the phone. I think that's what most of us would probably agree with. I'm guilty of that. Probably in the James Clear, like made it easy or made it difficult.
Like that's
sleep
right.
mode, got it out of the way, made the book easy because you got a Kindle with, you did the light, you did all these other things.
The Kindle was making it easy. That was
So I love it. Like totally like in application, and a great example. So how about if we go the other way? Anything in your life, could be present day or past, in terms of like when you felt like you didn't have momentum, when you felt like instead of a tailwind, you had a headwind, and just no matter what, you couldn't. Just things weren't. Everything felt like uphill, pushing the boulder uphill, slow, no progress. Obviously, you're a very action-oriented goal person, but anytime when you feel like you lost or didn't have momentum.
Yeah, this will probably resonate with everyone because life happens, right? But I was at my corporate job at Chick-fil-A. At work, it was definitely a season of a lot of change, and a lot of every day was different, and being told to do something on Monday and something totally different on Tuesday and totally different on Wednesday. Around the same time we had my daughter. So she's 3 now. This is about 3 years ago. I was like doing a diet. I was counting my calories and like following a nutrition plan and just trying to do like low caloric density foods. And I was like, I'm running every day. And at the same time, we did have our baby.
Yep.
I felt like everything was hard during this time period. I wasn't doing good with working out. I wasn't performing very well at work. I was trying to figure out how to be a dad. And maybe that's just a life thing, but it seemed like it wasn't just one thing that wasn't going well. I felt like it was everything that wasn't going well. And I got I'm very motivated by work. And I had a big, like, I say like hit the wall moment of just like priorities when we had our daughter of just like, okay, work really doesn't matter. This is what's most important. And so I really struggled with being motivated at work during that time, which is something I had never struggled with before. of just like showing up and being motivated. So that whole time period has felt, and we can try to dive in and figure out why, but like maybe it's just having a baby, but probably my worst year of performance at work, maybe ever since I started working.
Yeah.
Everything just felt difficult.
Well, I think you're onto something there where it's like the power of momentum when it's working, it really permeates across all aspects of your life. Now, subsequently, when it's not, rarely would you say I'm crushing it at work and not at home or fitness. These things obviously are life interconnected and intersect and bleed into each other. What do you think was the ultimate sort of trigger or change that got you out of that funk?
I think not having a rhythm, and I know some of that's out of my control, and that your job's your job. If it changes, it changes. But I could control the other stuff, and I just wasn't caring. Like we weren't meal planning very well to something we do well now, and so like I wasn't scheduling time to work out. Of course, we had our daughter. Then we're not sleeping very well initially. Yep. So I'm like, that's one of those things I can't control, but. I think I let life dictate how my day was going to go during that time instead of trying to control some of it. Because at the end of the day, like I do really believe that everyone can take some control of their day. Like even if you have a newborn, you can control some part of your day and make sure that you have some sort of rhythm, even if it's an hour. And I didn't take any responsibility during that time to actually take control of my days. And I think it caused bad performance kind of everywhere in life during that season.
Yeah. Can you pinpoint a time or was there a first move that you made that got you out of that rhythm or put rhythm back into your life?
Yeah. So, I mean, one, our daughter sleeping more helped with this, but taking back my morning routine of just like, hey, if she gets up, she gets up, but in the morning, I'm going to do A, B, and C. So like for me, it was like, I'm going to like get on the bike. I'm going to read my Bible and like have my cup of coffee every morning. And like, that's things I enjoy, things that fulfill me. The bike's good for me, even if I didn't enjoy getting back on it. And the other stuff is really fulfilling to me and stuff I enjoy and need. And that helped. I think that was the catalyst of just like, okay, I have my morning routine back. Now I can start getting in rhythms everywhere else of, if work changes, that's okay. And I think I got lazy with my task list at work. But the morning routine is something that always, if you look at my morning routine, I think for the last 5 years of my life, when that's going well, everything's kind of going well momentum wise. And when it's not,
pretty locked in.
Yep. Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's great. Well, this is fun. It's fun. I can tell that you are very intentional in your goals, in your processes, in your time, your routines, your relationship with your loved ones, your colleagues. So it's cool to unpack sort of how you think about, momentum in your life and how I'm excited to see where this reading habit takes you, because I know you got another book in you.
Yeah.
And I'm curious where that'll take you. So
I thought about writing fiction now. We'll see.
Yeah, maybe.
It just sounds fun.
That sounds so hard, right? I don't know. It's just I guess it's just a different recipe. You're cooking with different ingredients. But like when I read fiction, I'm just like, how did they think of this? How did they think that this person would be connected to that person? And then 12 chapters later, this would come back.
Like that kind of writing to me is I'm with you, much more hard than what I did because of all the different things you have to think through. But the challenge sounds really fun to try to figure it out and do well.
I mean, there's some, we're reading with my 9-year-old, we're reading Harry Potter now, and we're finally getting into that, which is so
I'm
much
reading Harry
fun.
Potter for the first time right now.
For the first time. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm probably a little bit of an older millennial than you, but like came out when I was in middle school, and then essentially I kind of grew up with the books, right?
Amazing.
And so it's fun now to watch it through my daughter's eyes. And in some ways I'm like, isn't it fun to just be like, to make up Quidditch and think about like, I'm just going to create this thing out of my brain. But then the flip side is also like just the complexity of, did she know she was going to write 7 books? And how do you can't, so many layers of the onion. It's crazy.
The fantasy and world building is another layer on top of just a fiction story where like you said, you're creating a world for someone and it's so descriptive. I think it made the movies not easy to make, but like there's pretty clear description of what the castle looked like there. And what Quidditch looked like. And very, very impressive writing and phenomenal storytelling with Harry Potter.
Yeah, totally. All right. Well, fun to get to know you a little bit more, Jake. Thanks for sharing your stories. Tell us, if someone's listening and either is that high school, college graduate or knows one, which we all do, especially coming up here this spring. Tell us more about where do we learn about the book?
How it knows one or employs one. I've heard a lot of great feedback from the book from business leaders who read it and felt like they understood how to develop young employees better as a result of reading the book. And so I'd love to give you this for free. masteryourfirstjob.com/free. You can get a free e-copy of the book. And if you like a paperback book like I do for nonfiction books, there's a link on there to get the paperback version as well. But masteryourfirstjob.com/free.
Awesome. We'll put that in the show notes as well, and folks can check that out. So thanks for the time today, Jake.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Jacob. Thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for your time, for unpacking your stories of momentum, both on the professional side with your book and the personal side with your sleeping habit. Remember, you can go to masteryourfirstjob.com. We'll put that on the bottom here and in the show notes /free. Should add that, masteryourfirstjob.com/free to get a free PDF copy, digital copy of the book. And if you want to, of course, you can buy it there. And make sure you subscribe to the Lead More podcast wherever you listen. We're on Spotify, we're on Apple, wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you want to watch the video format, go to youtube.com/JohnTMeyer_. You can watch along and see our lovely faces as we talk about momentum. So with that, friends, take care and be well.